there's a lot of myth. There's a lot of myth these days, you know. Myth comes out of history sometimes after historical events are recounted so many times. They take on a mythological kind of, and May 16, 1983 has a lot of this kind of myths around it today. People say that John Garang was sent in May 16, 1983 to quell a rebellion, which started on 16th May. But these are not the actual facts, you know, because those of President Salva Kiir, those of Carbino Kwanyin, those of William Nyon, you know, Arok Ton Arok. When I was a small boy, maybe President Salva was more in Malakal at that time, but those of Carbino in Khartoum and other people used to come to Khartoum, and I used to see them as a small boy. Now that I'm grown, I know what they were doing, you know, but as a small boy, I didn't know what they were doing. And these are the officers of Anyanya 1 who were dissatisfied with the Addis Ababa agreement, you know, but I believe the deputy of Joseph Lago was called Joseph Okwong. I believe, I'm not sure, you can check me on that. But he wanted to continue the struggle, and Joseph Lago was going to join Khartoum. And so some of these officers were too junior to be able to continue the struggle forward. And when the deputy of Lago was killed, there was no more like senior leadership. So they decided that the environment has the idea of peace has captured the imagination of Junubin. So we cannot force them to the bush again. So what we will do, let us join the Addis Ababa agreement, and we will see what will happen later. You see, so you can see how these people did not want really to join, but they joined reluctantly, knowing that we will work underground. Young people should get a book by Arop Madut called Sudan's Painful Road to Peace. He's a journalist who has documented a lot of this history. And so in Khartoum, after the Addis Ababa agreement, these officers who were dissatisfied, they formed a clandestine movement in the north, you know, to continue to prepare, you know, because they knew that the government was going to dismantle, and already as the agreement was signed, they had begun to dismantle the agreement. So these officers knew that something will happen, you know, and many Anyanya, not just what happened in 1983, in 75, I believe, those of Benson Kwanyin in Akobo, there were many mutinies that were happening, and then they would fail because the imagination of people of South Sudan was still, you know, peace, you know. But then later on, towards 1982, the Kokora issues started to come, and you know, like some of the government forces started to transfer Anyanya forces to the north. There was like the agreement was clearly collapsing. So this was now the moment, like, you know, that these people now had been waiting for. The people of South Sudan were being aggressed by Islamization, you know, forced Islamization, Arabization. Our women were being raped in Abyei and other places along the border of South Sudan and North Sudan. So now the people of South Sudan also began to realize that we had been cheated, you know, and so the people of South Sudan were restless in 1983. And in Bor, 16th of May represents more the day that the Sudan armed forces attacked their colleagues who were former Anyanya, who had been absorbed into the Sudanese army. So actually, the Sudanese army turned on itself. The Sudan armed forces, because they were no longer.
It was like a unified army around, right?
Now it was a unified army. And so what happened in 1983 was a split in the Sudan armed forces. This is how we can actually look at it. And so John Garang already, with those of Carbino and President Salva and others, already knew the plan. The plan was already there. And before 16th of May, they had already captured Bor.
Before?
Yeah, they captured Bor and they were in charge. They were in control. So what happened on 16th of May was the attack of the Sudan armed forces from Bor was coming on them, you know. So John Garang made his maneuvers to join his colleagues. When he joined his colleagues, one of the famous statements by
from Khartoum, he was in Khartoum, no?
He was in Khartoum. All of us, like he had sent us on holiday. This is why I said this interview should have been longer to deal with this issue. But when he arrived in Bor now, the famous words of Carbino, which are part of the mythology now, were uttered during this time. Oh, John Garang, son of my mom, you have now arrived. Take over the command. You see, and so 16th of May was when the forces of the Sudan Armed Forces in Juba launched the attack on Bor, and Bor had been taken by them. So when they were overwhelmed by the Sudan Armed Forces, they had to withdraw from Bor, and the South Sudanese population had been displaced. You see, and many people were already streaming to refugee camps in Ethiopia. We were on that exodus. As a small boy, we were on that exodus. We passed through areas that I went to. I went and found people who carried me as a small boy when I went to Nasser.
It was your mom?
During the Ayo. My mom was there and my brother. My sisters had not yet been born. But we were small children during that time. And so we had left the U.S. This is more personal now. My father had returned from the U.S. from his studies. We came to Khartoum, stayed in my uncle Kosia house in Khartoum. Then he sent us to Bor for holiday. And he was going to join us later. And as a small boy, I knew we came from America. We are going home to the village, and we will come back and go back to the U.S. You know, but after 1983, my life changed forever up to today. You know, and I was part of that history of the founding of this movement. You know, which some of us know as the SPLA, some of us know as the SPLA. You know, and today many people are confused about my position. Are you going to join SPLM? You know, and like, I mean, I don't know how I would join something that we were part of the founding of. You know, and so it's a redundant question where other people who have their own vested interests. You know, so 1983, 16th May 1983, when we talk about it, we should be careful because it has become, everything in our country has become tribalized. You see, so 16th May becomes a Dinkabor day, and another guy from Equatoria might be like, how about 1955? You know? And Noel might be like, how about Benson Kwang in 1975? And it becomes a competition about, you know, and it just becomes ridiculous. You know? But 1983, 16th May is it's a historical day. Like we have, as we have many historical days that led to today. But sometimes when we overemphasize 16th May, it kind of, because of the tribalization, it kind of creates that situation of like, how about this tribe? How about that tribe? Because now 16th May for many people has become a Dinkabor day, you know, and that is wrong. It's actually a South Sudanese day.
And Mabior, how would you compare, not necessarily May 16, but how would you compare unity among the leaders back then, during the 2 decades of a struggle, and with the current situation as we speak here?
Nothing has changed, really. I mean, the divisions in our movement have been there from 1983, from June, July, I think, when people arrived in Ethiopia and the government was they were trying to now create the administration. They quarreled there. They quarreled there up to today. They are still divided, you know, and so they are our elders, you know, and I cannot really point fingers or say something personal against them. But as a generation, you know, they are also part of what I was saying before, that why our people are in the condition that they are in. This does not escape the leaders, you know, because when we talk about change in the national conversation, South Sudan, we want social change, to change the negative, because when you're enslaved or when you're colonized, you go through social engineering, you know, so that your society can support the colonizer. You cannot be a free society again, you know. So the leaders, the political leaders that we have, come out of the society. So if you don't change the society, you will not change the politics. You know, so this is why we advocate for social changes. You know, and so if these leaders, some of these leaders can also understand this, you know, but unfortunately, like we have people who are beneficiaries of the colonial system that enslaved our people, and the social engineering that was done, chiefs were imposed on us, you know, and so sometimes now it becomes difficult, you know, to change that situation, because there are people who are beneficiaries of this situation, of the status quo.
How can they be dealt with?
Education.